today, beautiful people. That's wobble, Shayla. Putting my stuff together here. Alicia. Hey, girl, hey. All right, y'all. Put this over here. All right. Good morning. Yes, blessings to all. Blessings to all. Aliyah, peace and blessings. Beautiful people. I'm doing my little prep, getting everything ready here. Oh, okay. Alright, okay, so you ready? Alright, beautiful people. 2 more minutes of prep time. Alright. I'm ready. Alright, beautiful people. Everybody sleep well last night? I sure hope so. Guys, we are coming up on the new year here shortly. I give y'all some dates tomorrow. I know it. I didn't, I did calculate. But can't really say until we call the new moon, right? We get about the time period down pat, and we're going to be watching for that couple days before she shows herself here in about a week or so. And then we begin preparing for Passover. Yep, and the Feast of Unleavened Bread. So if y'all have not started getting the yeast out of your homes, you should probably start that now, probably like today. And don't forget to check them seasonings, things in your deep freezer, everything. Go ahead, either start cooking it up, eating it, preparing it. You don't have enough, well, you still got about a good 2 weeks. Maybe not 2 whole weeks, but close to 2 weeks. But it'll be here before you know it. Oh, well, yeah, well, I'm sorry, you do. Passover. But the new month begins like it's definitely gonna be the week of the 15th of March. One of them days. I'm not gonna give the day because we need to actually call the new moon, but it's definitely gonna be in that week, the first part of that week. Definitely, so just need to verify that by watching it. That weekend of the 13th coming up, which is next weekend. We should be watching for it, right? Okay. And also daylight saving time begin on the 14th. So, but all right, beautiful people. Happy Tuesday. That's wobble, Trina. That's wobble. Mom, shalom. All right, beautiful people. It is Tuesday, March the 2nd, 2021, day 91 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets under the 3-year consecutive day count. Day 760, and that is without the Sabbath days and the Sabbath feast days added in. I should say feast day, Sabbath days added in. But anyway, today we're reading Joshua 4, 5, and 6. And then we're picking up where we left off at with the legends of the Jews, and we're going to finish out the rest of everything that happened with Balaam. All right, but first let us go ahead and get started here with the Shema. Hear, therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily, as Yahuwah, the God of our fathers, has promised us, in the land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, Yahuwah, our God, He is one God. And you shall love Yahuwah your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart, and you shall teach them diligently unto your children. And you shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them upon the posts of your house and on your gates. And Yahuwah commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear Yahuwah our God for our good always, that he might preserve us alive as it is at this day. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do all these commandments before Yahuwah our God as he has commanded us. All right, y'all. So let's start reading here in Joshua chapter 4. Okay, Joshua chapter 4. When all the people had crossed the Jordan, Yahuwah said to Joshua, now choose 12 men, one from each tribe. Tell them, take 12 stones from every place where the priests are standing in the middle of the Jordan. Carry them out and pile them up at the place where you will camp tonight. So Joshua called together the 12 men he had chosen, one from each of the tribes of Israel. He told them, go into the middle of the Jordan in front of the ark of Yahuwah your God. You must pick up one stone and carry it out on your shoulder, 12 stones in all, one for each of the 12 tribes of Israel. We will use these stones to build a memorial. In the future, your children will ask you, what do these stones mean? Then you can tell them, they remind us that the Jordan River stopped flowing when the ark of Yahuwah's covenant went across. These stones will stand as a memorial among all the people of Israel forever. So the men did as Joshua had commanded them. They took 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan River, one for each tribe, just as Yahuwah had told Joshua. They carried them to the place where they camped for the night and constructed a memorial there. Joshua also set up another pile of 12 stones in the middle of the Jordan, at the place where the priests who carried the Ark of the Covenant were standing, and they are there to this day. And I'm sure that they are still there to this day, because remember, they are crossing, just like the Red Sea had parted, the Sea of Reeds, and they went across. The Jordan River has also parted to let them pass there. They set up a pillar in the middle where the priest stood in the middle until everybody got past. Joshua put a memorial there of 12 stones where the priests were standing with the Ark of the Covenant. And then one of the leaders from each tribe carried a stone from the midpole of that ocean and took it and set it outside of the place as a memorial of what Yahuwah had just did. Shalom, shalom. Joshua also set up another pile of 12 stones in the middle of the Jordan, at the place where the priests who carried the Ark of the Covenant were standing, and they are there to this day. The priests who were carrying the ark stood in the middle of the river until all of Yahuwah's commands that Moses had given unto Joshua were carried out. Meanwhile, the people hurried across the riverbed, and when everyone was safely on the other side, the priests crossed over with the ark of Yahuwah as the people watched. The armed warriors from the tribe of Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh led the Israelites across the Jordan just as Moses had directed. These armed men, about 40,000 strong, were ready for battle, and Yahuwah was with them as they crossed over to the plains of Jericho. That day, Yahuwah made Joshua a great leader in the eyes of all the Israelites, and for the rest of his life, they revered him as much as they had revered Moses. Yahuwah had said to Joshua, command the priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant to come up out of the riverbed. So Joshua gave the command. As soon as the priests carrying the Ark of Yahuwah's Covenant came up out of the riverbed and their feet were on high ground, the river of the Jordan returned and flowed its banks as before. The people crossed the Jordan on the 10th day of the first month. Then they camped at Gilgal, just east of Jericho. It was there at Gilgal that Joshua piled up the 12 stones taken from the river Jordan. And then Joshua said to the Israelites, in the future, your children will ask, what do these stones mean? then you can tell them, this is where the Israelites crossed the Jordan on dry ground. For Yahuwah your God dried up the river right before your eyes, and he kept it dry until you were all across, just as he did at the Red Sea when he dried it up until we had all crossed over. He did this so all the nations of the earth might know that Yahuwah's hand is powerful, and that you might fear Yahuwah your God forever. Something I noticed, and you probably may notice if you've been in the habit of reading it lately, but you tend to foster your faith. You tend to grow your faith a lot more when you're in the Old Testament. Despite of what a lot of people teach, at least in my experience, by spending most of my waking life in the New Testament, and then with simply just being in the Old Testament just solidly, like completely solidly for the last 3 years, my faith has grown by leaps and bounds. And I can just add stuff knowing there's some things have been straightened out of my mind about who Yahuwah is. And I can literally just say something. He'll bring the answer to me just like that. I'm telling y'all. I can sit here and tell y'all all day for real. But you have to begin to seek Yahuwah for yourself and practice it. Like, I can lead. It's probably a horrible saying. You can lead the horse to the water, but you can't make it drink. But you can actually take the horse head and push it in the water. But you can't really do that because you might cause the horse to drown. And you can even take the water and put it in the horse's mouth. But you can't really make the horse swallow. So I think it would be better to say you can lead a horse to the water and make sure the water gets in its mouth. But you can't make the horse swallow the water. You know. It's kind of dumb, but it's true nevertheless. Joshua chapter 5. When all the Amorite kings west of the Jordan and all the Canaanite kings who lived along the Mediterranean coast heard how Yahuwah had dried up the Jordan River so the people of Israel could cross, they lost heart and were paralyzed with fear because of them. At that time, Yahuwah told Joshua, make flint knives and circumcise this second generation of Israelites. So Joshua made flint knives and circumcised the entire male population of Israel at Gibeath Haraloth. Joshua had to circumcise them because all the men who were old enough to fight in battle when they left Egypt had died in the wilderness. Those who left Egypt had all been circumcised, but none of those born after the Exodus during the years in the wilderness had been circumcised. The Israelites had traveled in the wilderness for 40 years until all the men who were old enough to fight in battle when they left Egypt had died. For they had disobeyed Yahuwah, and Yahuwah vowed he would not let them enter the land he had sworn to give us, a land flowing with milk and honey. So Joshua circumcised their sons, those who had grown up to take their fathers' places, for they had not been circumcised on the way to the promised land. After all the males had been circumcised, they rested in the camp until they were healed. One thing I can say about being here in the land of our captivity, and Yahuwah has caused it to be so in the medical profession, that even in our captivity, the biggest sign of the covenant between us and Yahuwah allows it to be performed here, right? So even while in our captivity, he sees the sign of the covenant upon our male children, and in the fact that they are circumcised at birth. So blessed be the Most Holy for that, right? He is good in all things, right? Even keeping his covenant for the time that we are in captivity and didn't even know it, right? Okay. Then Yahuwah said to Joshua, today I have rolled away the shame of your slavery in Egypt, so that place has been called Gilgal to this day. While the Israelites were camped at Gilgal on the plains of Jericho, they celebrated Passover on the evening of the 14th day of the first month. The very next day they began to eat unleavened bread and roasted grain harvested from the land. No manna appeared on that day. They first ate from the crops of the land, and it was never seen again. So from that time on, the Israelites the Israelites ate from the crops of Canaan. When Joshua was near the town of Jericho, he looked up and saw a man standing in front of him with a sword in hand. Joshua went up to him and demanded, "Are you friend or foe?" "Neither one," he replied. "I am the commander of Yahuwah's army." At this, Joshua fell to his face to the ground in reverence. "I am at your command," Joshua said. "What do you want your servant to do?" The commander of Yahuwah's army replied, "Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy." And Joshua did as he was told. All right, y'all, last chapter for today, Joshua chapter 6. Now the gates of Jericho were tightly shut because the people were afraid of the Israelites. No one was allowed to go out or in. But Yahuwah said to Joshua, "I have given you Jericho, its king, and all its strong warriors. You and your fighting men shall march around the town once a day for 6 days. 7 priests will walk ahead of the ark, each carrying a ram's horn. On the 7th day, you are to march around the town 7 times, with the priests blowing the horns. When you hear the priests give one long blast on the ram's horn, have all the people shout as loud as they can. Then the walls of the town will collapse and the people can charge straight into the town." So Joshua called together the priests and said, "Take up the ark of Yahuwah's covenant and assign 7 priests to walk in front of it, each carrying a ram's horn." Then he gave orders to the people, "March around the town, and the armed men will lead the way in front of the ark of Yahuwah." After Joshua spoke to the people, 7 priests with the ram's horns started marching in the presence of Yahuwah, blowing the horns as they marched. The ark of Yahuwah's covenant followed behind them. Some of the armed men marched in front of the priests with the horns, and some behind the ark, with the priests continually blowing the horns. "Do not shout, do not even talk," Joshua commanded. "Not a single word from any of you until I tell you to shout, then shout." So the ark of Yahuwah was carried around the town once that day, and then everyone returned to spend the night in the camp. Joshua got up early the next morning, and the priests again carried the ark of Yahuwah. The 7 priests with the ram's horn marched in front of the ark of Yahuwah, blowing their horns. Again, the armed men marched both in front of the priests with the horns and behind the ark of Yahuwah. All this time, the priests were blowing their horns. On the 2nd day, they again marched around the town once and returned to the camp. They followed this pattern for 6 days. On the 7th day, the Israelites got up at dawn and marched around the town as they had done before. But this time, they went around the town 7 times. The 7th time around, the priests sounded the long blast on their horns. Joshua commanded the people, "Shout, for Yahuwah has given you the town. Jericho and everything in it must be completely destroyed as an offering to Yahuwah. Only Rahab the prostitute and the others in her house will be spared, for she protected our spies. Do not take any of the things set apart for destruction, or you yourselves will be completely destroyed, and you will bring trouble on the camp of Israel. Everything made from silver, gold, bronze, or iron is sacred to Yahuwah and must be brought into his treasury." When the people heard the sound of the ram's horn, they shouted as loud as they could. Suddenly, the walls of Jericho collapsed, and the Israelites charged straight into the town and captured it. They completely destroyed everything in it with their swords, men and women, young and old, cattle, sheep, goats, and donkeys. Meanwhile, Joshua said to the 2 spies, "Keep your promise. Go to the prostitute's house and bring out her along with all her family." The men who had been spies went in and brought out Rahab, her father, mother, brothers, and all the other relatives who were with her. They moved her whole family to a safe place near the camp of Israel. Then the Israelites burned the town and everything in it. Only the things made from silver, gold, bronze, or iron were kept for the treasury of Yahuwah's house. So Joshua spared Rahab the prostitute and her relatives who were with her in the house, because she had hidden the spies Joshua sent to Jericho, and she lives among the Israelites to this day. At that time, Joshua invoked this curse: "May the curse of Yahuwah fall on anyone who tries to rebuild the town of Jericho. At the cost of his firstborn son, he will lay its foundation. At the cost of his youngest son, he will set up its gates." So Yahuwah was with Joshua, and his reputation spread throughout the land. All right, beautiful people. That was Joshua 1, 2, and 3. 4, 5, and 6. Let's hop on over here to the Legends of the Jews, Volume 3, Chapter 6. We on. Hello, this is Pamela.
Hi, good morning. I'm here outside your building. What time do you guys start receiving?
We start receiving at 8 o'clock. Did you have an appointment for this morning?
They didn't. I was having some furniture delivery.
How many skips?
And yeah, well, actually, the truck that was supposed to be here broke down, so I just picked up the load that was coming here, but they didn't tell me anything about any appointment.
Yeah, you're supposed to call about 24 to 48 hours in advance, so we make sure we have somebody there to receive the load. How many pieces do you have?
I have. Let me check real quick here in the paper. It says 7 pallets and 74 boxes.
Okay. Do you have any more deliveries in the area?
No, it's just this one.
Okay. Sit tight. We'll have somebody there in about 30 minutes.
Oh, that's fine. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I apologize, y'all. I know when I see different numbers like that, it is for business. Hold on one second. Okay, y'all, I'm back. Sorry. I'm like, wait a minute. I know we weren't supposed to have one this early, so we don't have anybody there at the warehouse. But that's our 1 o'clock delivery, so he's gonna have to sit tight. He showed up early. Okay, let me catch my breath. I had to run. I'm sorry, y'all. Well, blessed be the most holy for business, right? Okay, so Volume 3, Chapter 6, and we are in the section entitled which one will we stop at? Oh, I just need to make sure. Okay, Balaam's wicked counsel. That's where we stop, because I remember this right here. Okay, y'all. One second, let me catch my breath. I'm sorry. Okay. I think I'm good. All right, y'all. Balaam's wicked counsel. Although Balaam had not been able to fulfill Balak's wish and curse Israel, still he did not leave him before giving him advice as to how he might bring ruin to Israel, saying, "The God of this people loathes unchastity, but they are very eager to possess linen garments. Pitch tents then, and at their entrances have old women offer these articles for sale. Induce them in this way to enter the interior of the tents, where they will be surprised by young harlots who will seduce them to unchastity, so that Yahuwah may punish them for their sin. Throw the stick up in the air, it will always return to its original place. The Moabite nation that owes its existence to the illegal relations of Lot with his daughter could not deny its origin, and followed Balaam's counsel to tempt Israel to unchastity. They pitched tents, filled them with pretty women, whom they provided with valuable things, and had old women take up their posts at the doors of the tents, whose task it was to lure the passing Israelites into the interior. If an Israelite passed by to buy something of the Moabite, the old woman at the entrance to the tent would thus address him: "Dost thou not wish to buy linen garments that were made in Bet-Shan?" Then they would show him a sample of the goods and name the price, and finally add, Go within, and thou wilt see wares still more beautiful." If he went within, he was received by a young woman who was richly adorned and perfumed, who would at first set for him a price much lower than the value of the goods, and then invite him to do as if he were at home and choose the article he liked best. When he sat there, he was treated with wine, and the young woman invited him to drink with the words, Why do we love ye while ye hate us? Are we not all descendants of one man? Was not Terah our ancestor as much as yours? If thou would not eat of our sacrifices, or what we have cooked, here are calves and fowl that thou mayest slaughter in accordance with thy law. But as soon as the Israelite had allowed himself to be persuaded to drink, he was absolutely in the hands of this shameless woman. Intoxicated with wine, his passion for the woman was soon kindled, but she agreed to satisfy his desires only after he had first worshipped Peor, the god of the Moabites. Now the worship of this idol consisted in nothing else than the complete baring of the body. Hence the Israelites, seeing no evil with it, declared themselves willing to follow the summons of the Moabite woman. And in this way they were seduced both to unchastity and to idolatry by the Moabite woman. At first, the men were ashamed and committed this whoredom with the Moabite woman in secret, but soon they lost this feeling of shame and betook themselves two by two to their lewd actions. I don't need to expound on this anymore. Y'all can get that picture right good. Israel's moral degeneration is to be partly explained by this, that the place where they found themselves was apt to tempt them with lewdness. For there are springs whose waters have various effects upon those who partake of them. One kind of water strengthens, another weakens. One makes beautiful, another makes ugly. One makes chaste, another brings about lewdness. Now there was in Shittim, where the Israelites then dwelt, the well of lewdness, out of which the inhabitants of Sodom had Now there was in Shittim, where the Israelites then dwelt, the well of lewdness, out of which the inhabitants of Sodom had erstwhile fetched water, but from which, since the destruction of the sinful cities, no one had drunk. And for this reason the people had until then been chaste. What in the world was in that water? Now I think about this saying that you hear sometimes, like, don't drink the water. Like, sometimes that saying is used and like, that town dirty, don't drink the water, you might get sick or something like that. But apparently, I don't know, maybe there's some kind of incantation said over these 6 different pools of water where they had the effect of certain things, right? But Israel, let me just go back. I'll just read that again. Listen. Israel's moral degeneration is to be partly explained by this, that the place where they found themselves was apt to tempt them to lewdness, for there are springs whose waters have various effects upon those who partake of them. One kind of water strengthens, another weakens. One makes beautiful, another makes ugly. One makes chaste, and another brings about lewdness. Now there was in Shittim, where the Israelites had dwelt, the well of lewdness, out of which the inhabitants of Sodom had erstwhile fetched water, but from which, since the destruction of the sinful cities, no one had drunk. And for this reason the people had until then been chaste. But Israel, as soon as they tasted of this water, gave up their chaste manner of life. Jeez. This disastrous spring will lose its force only in the messianic time, when Yahuwah will cause it to dry up. Y'all better be careful about that water y'all drinking. Phineas, zealous for Yahuwah. When the people's shamelessness became more and more widespread, Yahuwah commanded Moses to appoint judges to punish the sinners, and it was difficult to discover these through the agency of witnesses. Yahuwah marked them by causing the cloud of glory that lay spread over the camp of Israel to disappear from the sinners. Ooh. Those that were not covered by the cloud of glory were thus clearly marked as sinners. How embarrassing, right? You use that. Remember Adam and Eve? What they lost when they sinned? They lost that righteousness that covered them. Go back and read that. Go back and read that when we read that before. Look like the same thing is happening when they sin. It says they were clearly marked because the cloud of glory was removed from them. Bro, you naked. You naked and ashamed. Right? Those that were not covered by the cloud of glory were thus clearly marked as sinners. Yahuwah appointed as judges and executioners the 7 myriads, 8,600 officers of the people, giving them the order that each of them execute 2 sinners. These carried out Moses' command and stoned the sinners, whose corpses then hung on the gallows for a few minutes. This was the legal punishment for these sinners had not only committed whoredom with the women of Moab, but had worshipped the Moabite idol Peor, and idolatry is punishable with death by stoning. While the judges administered their stern offices, the tribe of Simeon approached their prince Zimri and said to him, "People are being executed, and thou sittest still as if nothing were going on." He therefore took with him 24,000 men and betook himself to Cosbi, Balak's daughter, and without considering Yahuwah or men, he requested her in the presence of many people to yield herself to him to satisfy his evil desires. Now Balak had ordered his daughter Cosbi to employ her beauty only for the sake of enticing Moses, thinking, whatever evil may be decreed by Yahuwah against Israel, Moses will be brought to naught. But if my daughter should hold on, before I can even finish reading this sentence, who would ever think to try to seduce Moses, right? The man who put away sexual pleasures from his own wife, because Yahuwah told him to. He didn't, Yahuwah told him to. Remember, that's how Miriam and Aaron got in trouble, because Moses' wife was over there hyping up Miriam. You need to go talk to your brother because he need to practice what he preached. He ain't sleeping with me, but it was because Yahuwah had told him to refrain from sexual pleasures with his wife, right? We know that, and that's why they got in trouble. They don't tell us what happened, if anything happened to Moses' wife for doing that, but all right. But why would they even think that they could entice Moses with? Okay, that just blew my mind real quick. Now, he was still a man, but they didn't realize how deeply locked this man was, locked in with the Most Holy, and had complete control over his flesh. Well, aside from his anger, for the most part, because that's how he got in trouble. Now Balak had ordered his daughter Cosbi to employ her beauty only for the sake of enticing Moses, thinking, whatever evil may be decreed by Yahuwah against Israel, Moses will be brought to naught. But if my daughter should succeed in seducing him to sin, then all of Israel will be in my hand. Hence Cosbi. First of all, let me bring out something. I'm gonna quit cutting this off. Notice the pattern. And you can still see this pattern today in our people, and how other nations prostitute Yahuwah's people that don't even know that they're Israel. They know the secret behind the power of the Torah, and Yahuwah fighting for us, right? We must remain holy. We must abstain from all sin, right? Notice how when you read through here, and it says it right here, the people knew that if Israel had sinned, Yahuwah would back up and they would be able to take them, right? They would be able to take them because all the nations know that in order for anything to happen for you, we got to entice you to sin. Just like they went through this whole rigmarole of trying to entice the men with the old women outside the tents and the beautiful women on the inside. They had to cause them to sin. They had to cause them to commit idolatry first. Then they had them to commit adultery. They go 2 and 2. When you violate one, you're automatically violating the other one, right? So they said first, before we can do this, you have to, and they made it so that all you got to do is this. You ain't got to do nothing. All you got to do is just get naked. Just get naked before our God. You don't bare your body to sinners. You don't do that, right? And they couldn't see anything. Oh, well, we're not performing any kind of slaughtering or rituals or nothing. I don't see anything wrong with this. Plus, I'm about to get the booty anyway. The clothes got to come off anyway, So they got naked. idolatry. And then they began to have sex with the beautiful women in the tent. Adultery, idolatry, fornication, it's all one and the same, right? Because when we commit idolatry, we're committing adultery against the most holy, right? So, like I said, you can see this happening with our people. Oh, you just do this. Even with the clothes and stuff that we wear. We have some beautiful clothing out here. Not everything we need to wear, we need to be bearing our body. Because when we bear our body to others, especially women, they know how to use the women to do this, putting them in the videos, shaking their butt. Men's, they understand how people operate, right? But if they can constantly cause the men to sin with their eyes, entice the women with a few riches and a little notoriety and fame, and put you with this dude or whatever, just show your booty a little bit, show a little bit of cleavage, and we'll constantly keep them in a cycle of sin. And we can constantly lord over them because they're breaking all the commandments. This will lead to the breaking of that, and this will lead to the breaking of that, and this will lead to the breaking of that, right? And we can't seem to see the vicious cycle that we're stuck in, right? Pay attention, people. Listen, let me just go back here. Let me just go back to when, look. Okay. Now Balak had ordered his daughter Cosby to employ her beauty only for the sake of enticing Moses, thinking, whatever evil may be decreed by Yahuwah against Israel, Moses will be brought to naught. But if my daughter should succeed in seducing him to sin, then all of Israel would be in my hand. Hence Cosby said to Zimri, my father ordered me to be obedient to the wishes of Moses alone and to none other, for he is a king, and so is my father, and a king's daughter is fit for none but a king. Zimri, however, replied, I am a greater man than Moses, for he is a chief only of the 3rd tribe of Israel, whereas I am a prince of the tribe of Simeon, the 2nd of the Israelite tribes. And if thou wilt, I will convince thee that I am a greater man than Moses, for I will take thee to myself in his presence without paying attention to his prohibition. Zimri then seized Cosby by the locks of her hair and brought her before Moses, whom he then addressed as follows. Tell me, son of Amram, is this woman permitted me, or is she forbidden me? Moses said, she is forbidden to thee. Zimri answered, art thou really the faithful expounder of the Torah, whose reliability Yahuwah praised with the words, he is faithful in all mine house? How then canst thou assert that she is forbidden me, for then thy wife would be forbidden thee? For she is a Midianite like this woman, and this one is a noble woman of a noble family, whereas thy wife is the daughter of an idolatrous priest. Boy. At those words, Moses, Eleazar, and the elders began to weep, for they knew not how to make answer to Zimri's insolent words, nor what they could do to restrain this sinner from the accomplishment of his sin. Yahuwah said to Moses, where is thy wisdom? Thou didst need to utter only one word, and Korah and all his company were swallowed by the earth. Canst thou do nothing now better than to weep? The Holy Spirit exclaimed at Moses' perplexity and silence, thou stout-hearted art spoiled. They have slept in their sleep. Yahuwah, who calls the pious to strict account, punished Moses for the lack of decision he displayed on this occasion by leaving his burial place unknown to mankind. While Moses and other pious men were irresolute and deliberated whether or not Zimri deserved death, Phinehas said to Moses, O my great uncle, didst thou not teach me when thou didst return from Mount Sinai? This is what the zealots task for the sake of Yahuwah's law, to slay those who commit unchastity with non-Hebrew women. Phinehas took the liberty of pointing out the law to his teacher Moses, who had forgotten it, because when Yahuwah's name is profaned, no man should consider the respect due to a teacher. Wherefore Moses indeed did not take it all amiss, but said to Phinehas, let the reader of the letter be its bearer also. Words by which he called upon Phinehas himself to visit punishment upon the sinners. Phinehas was now for a time in doubt whether he should dare to punish the sinners, for it was to be expected that he would eventually meet his death in this way, being one against two, Zimri and his mistress Cosby. When, however, the plague that Yahuwah sent upon Israel on account of their sin spread more rapidly, Phinehas was determined to risk his life in trying to kill the sinners. For, he said to himself, the horse goes willingly into battle and is ready to be slain, only to be of service to its master. How much more does it behoove me to expose myself to death in order to sanctify Yahuwah's name? He found himself all the more impelled to act thus because he could not well leave the punishment of the sinners to others. He said the tribe of Reuben can effect nothing in this instance because their grandsire Reuben was himself suspected of an unchaste action. Nothing is to be expected from the tribe of Simeon, for it follows the sinful example of its prince Zimri. The tribe of Judah cannot well be used in this manner, because their grandsire Judah committed unchastity with his daughter-in-law Tamar. Moses himself is doomed to impotence because his wife Zipporah is a Midianite woman. Now something just clicked for me for a second. I was just talking about Zipporah's wife and the shenanigans. Maybe that's why this whole thing, right? I didn't remember all of this. Look, so maybe that's why Yahuwah told Moses to no longer have relations with his wife, because for one, she, like he said, she was forbidden to him. But he had already had, they had 2 children? They had already had 2 children. Matter of fact, the whole thing came up about them during that time when somebody said, well, what about replenishing? And Yahuwah said Moses already has 2 children. So that part he has fulfilled, right? So I'm sorry, y'all. The juices is just flowing and moving through my brain. I just thought about something. Okay, all right. And they call it impotence, but Yahuwah told him no. Moses himself is doomed to impotence because his wife Zipporah is a Midianite woman. Hence there remains nothing but for me to interpose. 12 miracles. Phinehas now, prepared at the risk of his own life to punish Zimri for his sin, left the house of teaching where he had until now debated the case of Zimri with Moses and all other pious men, and had himself provided with a lance, having none with him, because no armed man may enter a house of teaching. That his weapon might not betray him, he detached the upper iron part of the lance and hid it in his bosom, and leaned upon the wooden shaft as if it were... Yeah, Shayla, right? Shayla said that's exactly what she was thinking. So it makes sense now. It really does. Now that I think about the law, and Yahuwah says, do not take these particular women. You are not, right? Because eventually Yahuwah sees down the line what ends up happening. They cause Yahuwah's people to betray him, right? People literally had to devise plans to get Yahuwah's people to sin against him, right? So they had to use alcohol. They had to use things to where they weren't fully in their right state of mind in order to get them. Because what they do, it said even with the women that was standing at the entrance of the tent, the older women and the younger ones inside, they bought it. Oh yeah, we'll give you a better price. I'm like, come on in here, bro. Yeah, we got this. Like I said, isn't it so beautiful? Look at this. They were adorned in the beautiful stuff. Say, yeah, look at this. Feel it. Come ahead and feel it. We don't feel so good. Look it up against your face. Look, sit down right there. I got a couch right there. Sit down right there in the chair. You the man. Go ahead, sit down and look. I'm gonna bring some of this over here to you. Would you like something to drink? You know, bringing them the alcohol. They take the sip of wine and they start reeling them in. Women, y'all know how we do. Y'all know how we do. They was using those same womanly wiles to woo them in. And most men cannot say no to a beautiful woman, especially when she's smelling all good, the move set just right. They know what they doing. And the older women outside bring them in. Hey, baby, come here. Like, come here. And you know how older women can pull in younger men? Guys, don't act like y'all know. When he reached the house where Zimri and Cosby were giving extravagant play to their passions. When he reached the house where Zimri and Cosby were giving I like that word, giving extravagant play to their passions. Write that down. That's a new way of saying it. Trina, Trina said, I sure know how I did. Okay. When he reached the house where Zimri and Cosby were giving extravagant play to their passions, the people said to him, Whence, Phinehas, and whither? He replied, Do ye not know that the tribe of Levi is always to be found where the tribe of Simeon is? They permitted him to enter the house, but said, It seems that even the Pharisees now permit intercourse with the heathen women. When Phinehas had entered, he drew his lance and thrust both of them through, the man of Israel and the woman through her belly. Shalom, Kathy. So this, remember, we read about this in the Old Testament. I believe it's wait, did we already read it? We read about this. So this is that couple when he ran into the tent, he stuck his knife through the man's back and it went in through the woman, right? And I had wondered before, I was like, well, how in the world did he get them like that? Were they standing hugging or were they in the act of having sex, right? So clearly, how I was thinking, because when I read, I was like, yeah. I was like, they was close, clearly. They could have been just close and he walked in, but it says here, it gives more detail. They were in the act of giving extravagant play to their passions. They were having sex when he came in. So they could only move so fast, right? Yeah, and it says, when Phinehas had entered, he drew his lance and thrust both of them through, the man of Israel and the woman through her belly. Phinehas' fear that these two might attack him was not realized, for Yahuwah performed no less than 12 miracles for Phinehas, which not only made it impossible for the sinners to attack him, but also showed the people that his action found favor in the sight of Yahuwah. The first miracle was that an angel would not allow the sinful couple to... Ooh, there you go. Look. Rosina, hey girl, hey, listen. Look. Look at what it just said. Even if they were surprised... Look, it just said it. There was a miracle. So they was in the act of extravagant play. And when he came in, that was a miracle. It said Yahuwah performed, where even if they wanted to separate from them having intercourse, they couldn't. I'll read it again. I'm going to just keep going. Listen. Let me just go back up here. When he reached the house where Zimri and Cosby were giving extravagant play to their passions, the people said to him, Whence, Phinehas, and whither? He replied, Do you not know that the tribe of Levi is always to be found where the tribe of Simeon is? Then they permitted him to enter the house, but said, It seems that even the Pharisees now permit intercourse with the heathen women. When Phinehas had entered, he drew his lance and thrust both of them through, the man of Israel and the woman through her belly. Phinehas' fear that these two might attack him was not realized, for Yahuwah performed no less than 12 miracles for Phinehas, which not only made it impossible for the sinners to attack him, but also showed the people that his action found favor in the sight of Yahuwah. The first miracle was that an angel would not allow the sinful couple to separate when Phinehas surprised them. The second miracle was that the angel stopped their mouths so that they could not cry out for help. The third miracle was that Phinehas' lance struck the man's and the woman's pudenda. What is a pudenda, y'all? Somebody look that up. Pudenda. 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 The fourth miracle was that the upper iron part of the lance extended so that Phinehas could at once pierce the man as well as the woman. The fifth miracle was that Phinehas' arm was sufficiently strong to lift both upon the point of his lance. The sixth miracle was that the wooden shaft of the lance sustained the weight of the two persons. We read this somewhere else, but we read this earlier. It was a little bit about this earlier. I'm like, what? Because I remember saying, what? He was that strong where when he took the lance, the sword through them, he was able to lift them up. Imagine two whole grown human beings on the edge of this man's sword, right? It's one of the miracles that Yahuwah performed when he was executing justice for him. The fifth miracle was that Phinehas' arm was sufficiently strong to lift both upon the point of his lance. The sixth miracle was that the wooden shaft of the lance sustained the weight of 2 persons. The seventh miracle was that the 2 bodies remained poised upon the lance and did not fall off. The eighth miracle was that the excuse me. The eighth miracle was that the angel turned the shameless pair around so that all might see that Phinehas had surprised them in flagrancy. The ninth miracle was that no blood flowed from them, although they had been thrust through. Oh, that's right. I read this. Or else Phinehas would have been polluted. The 10th miracle was that the shameless couple did not give up the ghost so as long as Phinehas bore them upon the point of his lance, as he would have otherwise been polluted by their corpses. The 11th miracle was that the angel raised the doorpost of the room so that Phinehas might pass through with the sinners upon the point of his lance. And the 12th miracle was that when the tribe of Simeon prepared to avenge Prince Zimri's death upon Phinehas, the angel sent a plague upon them so that they were impotent against him. Phinehas was not, however, content with having punished the sinners, but tried also to reconcile Yahuwah with Israel. That pudenda. What? Let's go back up. External parts of the genitals, pudenda. Let's go back and read that. Oh my gosh. Ugh, can you imagine the pain? Hold on. Oh, the third miracle was that Phinehas' lance struck the man's and the woman's pudenda. Now let's remove pudenda and put the definition. The third miracle was that Phinehas... Hey, y'all, chill. The third miracle was that Phinehas' lance or his sword struck the man's and the woman's external parts of their genitals. Oh, real pain. They should have died right then. Oh my gosh. Okay. Thank you for that definition. Phinehas was not, however, content with having punished the sinners, but tried also to reconcile Yahuwah with Israel. He threw the 2 dead bodies upon the ground, saying to Yahuwah, "Why, alas, hast thou, on account of the sins of these 2, slain 24,000 Israelites? For this was the number that had been snatched away by the plague that Yahuwah had sent upon Israel for their sins." So not only are the ones who are guilty of committing the sin punished, but they also let loose the wrath of Yahuwah amongst our people, and everybody is affected until we get the guilty part. That's why Yahuwah said we need to deal with this right now. Imagine, look, we would still be such a chaste people if judgment was executed immediately. Boy, I tell you, mercy and grace gets us into... Father, listen, thank you for your mercy and grace. But I'm just explaining this real quick, right? Okay. We need mercy and grace, right? For those who are ignorant, I'm by no means saying please stop your mercy and grace. But when a lot of people get that mercy and grace, they don't, greasy grace. They just keep on sliding into further sin. It's like a slippery slope for them. Instead of stopping and getting it together, they think, "Oh, I done got away with this. Let me get a little bit more deeper into this," right? Their senses leave them, and you get further and further in trouble. And what you begin to see happen is it begins to affect the entire household, right? That's what Yahuwah said your sin is going to affect the entire house, especially if you have children and you don't straighten up and they're watching you. You are modeling to them the type of behavior that they are going to eventually begin to follow, right? And then your children will be held accountable for the sins of their father. Now, they will not be held accountable for the sins of their father if they stop and they repent, right? And Yahuwah said he would then begin to bless them, and they would be forgiven of those things. But if they keep following in the ways of their father, they will reap the punishment that the father has brought upon the entire household, right? And I'm just like, man, I'm like, so somebody in our generations got to get it right. If our mama and daddies and ancestors was acting crazy, somebody need to get it right. Like, you know what, this stops with me. And that was something that I said. I kind of understood it a little bit early in my life. I said, this stops with me. Not that my mom and dad were like complete heathens or anything, because they weren't. Everybody had their issues. But there were some things that I saw that I didn't quite understand earlier in life. But I understood that I didn't want to go in that route, you know. So I was like, Father, you got to help me. Because there were times where I definitely had the opportunity to take some of those routes that I said I would never go upon. And a couple times I have stumbled, and I caught myself. I'm like, Father, forgive me. We got to get this right, you know. And so it's like, when you choose to do what's right, then you begin to model righteousness for your household, and then your entire house can be saved. That's what that means, right? If you head into destruction, you're leading your entire house into destruction because they're following in your footsteps. If you choose to walk in the ways of righteousness, you and then your entire household will be saved, right? So I'm just like, man, we really got to think about this. So that's why Yahuwah said like my mama would say, she said, all it takes is one good public flogging, because get the ringleader. Everybody gonna see the ringleader get that tail toe off. Oh, I'm sitting down. Keisha just got stoned last week for that. Nope, we ain't doing that. You know, so you get the one that's thrusting everybody into sin, and everybody else, if you got good common sense, you're gonna catch a clue and set your tail down and do what's right. Like, no, we don't need no more leaders like Keisha. We're not following that route. So if any of y'all, we're not following you, and we gonna tell on y'all too, right? So we really have to be mindful about this, y'all. So let me go right here. Phinehas was not, however, content with having punished the sinners, but tried also to reconcile Yahuwah with Israel. He threw the 2 dead bodies upon the ground, saying to Yahuwah, Why, alas, hast thou on account of the sins of these two slain 24,000 Israelites? For this was the number that had been snatched away by the plague that Yahuwah had sent upon Israel for their sins. The angels now wanted to plunge Phinehas into death for his bold words, but Yahuwah bade them desist, saying, Leave him in peace. He is a zealot, the son of a zealot, and an appeaser of wrath, the son of an appeaser of wrath. Phinehas rewarded. While Yahuwah expressed his entire satisfaction with Phinehas's act. Excuse me, I gotta take a sip of water. Hold on. All right. Okay. While Yahuwah expressed his entire satisfaction with Phinehas's act, it found many adversaries among Israel who would scornfully call after him, Behold, this man, the grandson of one who fattened calves to offer them up to an idol, daring to slay a prince among Israel. This spiteful remark referred to the fact that Phinehas was descended on his mother's side not only from Joseph, but from Jethro also, who before his conversion to Hebrew had been a priest of idols. Yahuwah therefore said to Moses, Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest, has turned my wrath away from the children of Israel. Hence I offer him my greeting of peace, for it was he who, zealous for my sake, preserved the seed of Abraham. The reason Yahuwah designated Phinehas as the son of Eleazar, the grandson of Aaron, was that he wanted to stop the mouths of Phinehas's detractors, who pretended that he was nothing but a grandson of the heathen priest Jethro, ignoring the fact that he was at the same time the grandson of Aaron, the high priest before Yahuwah. Yahuwah was not content with the greeting of peace, but bade Moses tell Phinehas, with thy mouth thou hast defended Israel. Therefore, as thy priest's portion, shalt thou receive the jawbone of animals. With thy lance did thou aim at the bellies of the shameless couple. Hence shalt thou receive the bellies of the animals. And as with thy arm thou did labor to slay the sinners, for so thy portion shalt thou receive the shoulder of the animals. As moreover thou didst strive to make peace among mankind, so shalt thou be bestowed the priestly blessing upon my children, and bless them with peace. As a reward for his pious deed, Phinehas was appointed by Yahuwah as a priest, with all the rights of priesthood that enabled him to lay claim to the 24 tributes to priests. But the highest reward that Phinehas was But the highest reward to Phinehas was that Yahuwah granted him everlasting priesthood. For Phinehas is none other than the prophet of Elijah. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. I need to check something. I'm sorry, y'all. I ain't gonna say it, but I need to make myself a mark here. For something I had been looking at.
This is
Okay.
1 hour.
Come on, Josiah.
1 hour and 45 minutes.
Thank you, King Josiah. But the highest, look, he 8 years old too. Boy, he be waking up with dreams of be, when I have to think about something, especially this year after he turned 8. And it just kind of triggered something, right? I'm like, oh, okay. I'm listening, Father. But the highest reward to Phinehas was that Yahuwah granted him everlasting priesthood. For Phinehas is none other than a prophet of Elijah. His task is to make atonement for Israel, and without tasting of death, he constantly discharges the duties of his everlasting priesthood until the resurrection of the dead, offering up daily 2 sacrifices for the children of Israel, and upon the skins of these animals, recording the events of each day. Yahuwah furthermore said to Phinehas, Thou hast in this world established peace between me and Israel. In the future world also shalt thou establish peace between me and them. He was therefore destined to be the forerunner of the Messiah, to establish oh my gosh, how they have taken this out of context when they teach the New Testament. Okay, I'm going to talk to y'all about this later. Oh, wait a minute. Y'all. Wait a minute. Hold on. And keep in mind that Yahuwah himself is Israel's Messiah, right? We talk about this all the time. Yahuwah is Israel's Messiah. It's Yahuwah himself who is coming down to live among us, right? When that time, it will be called the Messianic time, with Yahuwah himself leaving his throne and coming down here to reside among his people, right? We'll talk about this more on another day. I gotta, oh my gosh, I gotta pull up some resources and stuff that I've been sitting aside. Okay. Yahuwah furthermore said to Phinehas, Thou hast in this world established peace between me and Israel. In the future world also thou shalt establish peace between me and them. He was therefore destined to be the forerunner of the Messiah, to establish before his coming peace on earth. Make sure I find this. I gotta look at some stuff. Okay. When Israel addicted themselves to an immoral life at Shittim, the nations of the world rejoiced greatly, for they knew that Yahuwah had distinguished Israel before all other nations and had given them the Torah only because their life had been moral. Now, said they, the crown has been taken from Israel's head. Their pride is departed, for now they are no better than we. See, they always got to get Israel to sin, because they know when we sin, Yahuwah backs up from us, and anybody can come in and run roughshod all over us, right? I read that. When Israel addicted themselves to an immoral life at Shittim, the nations of the world rejoiced greatly, for they knew that Yahuwah had distinguished Israel before all other nations and had given them the Torah only because their life had been moral. Don't let anybody entice y'all to sin, right? Because that's when the power leaves. Now, they said, the crown has been taken from Israel's head. Their pride is departed, for now they are no better than we. Yahuwah, however, raised up Israel from their fall by sending the plague upon the sinners at Shittim, and thus purify Israel from them, so that they could again, as of yore, be proud of their family purity, through which they had been distinguished from all other nations. Stop it, child. Let me tell y'all something. If you catch a little clue here, if nothing seems to be going right for you, double check your life and make sure it is pure in all ways, in all forms and fashion that you can see. And then, if that's clean, or if it's not, repent, clean it up. And then you can go before Yahuwah, because when we lead pure and holy lives, we begin to see Yahuwah move and fight for us. When things are going wrong, it's an aching in the camp. Yahuwah therefore ordered them to take a census to show in this way that Israel remained true to the traditions of their ancestors. Let me go read it again. I'm sorry. I'm reading too fast. I'm sorry, y'all. Yahuwah therefore ordered them to take a census to show in this way that Israel remained true to the traditions of their ancestor Abraham by keeping their family life pure. This census showed that several tribes had lost entire divisions since the time that passed between the entrance of Israel into Egypt and their entrance into the Promised Land. Among the tribes that had perished were such as already lost their lives in Egypt, those namely who had died during the days of darkness, because there were such sinners that they did not want to leave Egypt. But heaviest of all were the losses in the tribes of Benjamin and Simeon, for in the battle between the Levites and the other tribes after Aaron's death, when the latter, for the fear of the Canaanites, wanted to return to Egypt, the Benjamites lost no less than 7 divisions. All of the 24,000 men that died from the plague at Shittim belonged, however, to the tribe of Simeon, which is at the end of the march through the desert, had dwindled down to less than half its number. The tribe of Dan, on the other hand, had turned out to be very fruitful, for whereas at the entrance of Egypt it had consisted of only 1 division, it later exceeded in number all the other tribes except the tribe of Judah. All right, y'all, we're going to pause right here, and tomorrow we're going to pick it back up with the daughters of Zelophehad. All right, we read about them before in their argument about the land that they should have gotten because their father bore no sons. Okay. All right, y'all. So that was Legends of the Jews. We read pages 358 all the way over here to page 361. And we read Joshua 4, 5, and 6. I hope you all enjoyed the reading for today. I surely did. I got some things I need to go back and check. I'm double checking some stuff. It makes some things make sense, y'all. I'm telling y'all, there is only one God that we should be worshiping. And it is Him and Him alone. And nothing should we be doing in anybody else's name except for Him and Him alone. Especially if y'all missed yesterday, y'all probably need to go back and watch yesterday's video where it talks about how you... Let me just pull it up. Just real quick. Where it said Yahuwah knew that there would come a time that there would be a man born from a woman who would carry himself as a god and would lead the whole world astray. Who we know that to be? I ain't say it. I'm just repeating what the manuscript had. I thought I highlighted. There you go. I thought I highlighted, but then I knew it was at the bottom of the page. Listen. Remember when Balaam was cursing the people And Yahuwah said what he wanted to curse, but Yahuwah said nothing's going to come out your mouth but blessing. But even the blessings were counted to Balaam as curses because he wanted to. He wanted to curse Israel, right? Listen, here's what Yahuwah said. The words that Balaam announced were heard by all the... hold on, let me go back up because it said, remember, though I will bless those that bless thee, and I will curse those that curse ye. Those are the words that Yahuwah allowed Balaam to speak. And when he spoke them, Yahuwah amplified his voice in such a way that all the inhabitants of the earth heard it. Listen. But whereas Moses blessed his people in a low, quiet voice, Balaam spoke his words of blessing in a very loud voice, so that all the other nations might hear, and out of envy make war upon Israel. Balaam's blessings were therefore accounted to him not as blessings, but as curses. Yahuwah said, I have promised Abraham, and I will bless them that bless thee, and him that curseth thee will I curse. Hence I will account Balaam's blessings as curses. And indeed, all of Balaam's blessings later turned to curses, except his blessing that the house of teaching and prayer should never be missing among Israel. The words that Balaam announced were heard by all the inhabitants of the earth. Such power did Yahuwah lend to his voice, for he knew, here you go, right here, for he, who is he? Yahuwah. For he knew that at some future time there would be a man born of a woman who would pass himself for a god and would mislead all the world. And we really got to give any details. Everybody in the world know who that is, right? Hence, Yahuwah permitted all the world to hear Balaam's words that said, God is not a man, right? And we read that also in the Old Testament. Yahuwah said, I am not a man that I shall lie, neither am I going to make myself into a man, right? God is not a man, and the man that passeth himself for God lieth. Love you too, babe. Listen. God is not a man, and the man that passeth himself for God lieth. But he that will mislead the world by declaring that he will disappear for a time and then reappear will promise what he can never fulfill. Think about everybody that's waiting for Jesus to come back and get them. Is this not what this is talking about? Listen. Hence, Yahuwah permitted all the world to hear Balaam's words that said, God is not a man, and the man that passeth himself for God lieth. But he that will mislead the world by declaring that he will disappear for a time and then reappear will promise what he can never fulfill. Woe then to that nation that will lend ear to the man who will pass himself for God. Y'all better catch a clue and praise Yahuwah alone and worship him alone. Things are powerful when we pray in his name alone. He is very jealous about his very own name. And as we read through the old scrolls, the books of the law and the prophets, Yahuwah talks about his name alone. Let's go ahead on over here to the blessing. I ain't said, don't get mad with me. I'm just repeating what Yahuwah said so we can get this thing popping. And we see things happening and really see the glory of the Most Holy cover the face of this earth, right? But we got to return to the ancient paths. And the ancients knew the proper path that we should be on. The blessing is found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. Remember, the Nazarite vow is the first 21 verses. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, May Yahuwah bless us and keep us. May Yahuwah make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon us and give us his peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. All right, beautiful people. I love y'all. That's it for today. I let everybody get on about their day. I don't see any comments on either place today. Thank y'all for hanging out with me while I stand my post. May Yahuwah bless everybody and the work of their hands and all that you do. All right, y'all. Love y'all. See you in the morning. 7:30 a.m. Wrong time. It's week. 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Bye. Bye.